The website is www.nomorenerves.com. If you're online this morning, go and have a look at it. nomorenerves.com. I have some experience of this as well. With my own wedding was 6 or 7 weeks ago. I should really know, shouldn't I? Rather than saying what was it? It was whenever it was. It was in July, the beginning of July. But there's, as the groom, there's an expectation that you need to say a few words. Now the pressure isn't there as much as there was on JP, who was my best man. That you have to give a full speech, and there's the whole best man speech nonsense that everyone going, oh, you're nervous, and all that kind of crack that goes on. But there are a lot of people, kind of, particularly in the summer, a lot of people book their weddings during the summer weekends, and I'm sure there's an awful lot of people worried about making a speech this weekend or next weekend or over the next few weeks while the summer continues. We've got the solution to sort out your nerves. The website, as I say, is nomorenerves.com. And Derek Carter, he's a professional trainer who runs a company called No More Nerves, and he's in the studio now. Derek, welcome to the show.
Good morning, Ray. Thank you.
What do you do to fix people? Why is it? Tell me first of all, why is it that people get nervous when they're thinking? And it's just, I can speak from experience. It's just the thought of making a speech, and you get nervous. Why is that? Why does that happen so instantly?
You're absolutely right. I think the reason that most people feel those nerves, it's not that they're really under pressure. It's a very rare case where their wife-to-be or their family are actually telling them, don't screw this up. They're not under real pressure.
Exactly. Yeah.
Most of the time it's actually imagined pressure to perform. And once you put that on a man or a woman, it becomes much more difficult to actually perform it. And especially something like a speech. If you asked 100 people, what's your worst fear? The majority of those 100 people would say, oh God, speaking in public, or making a presentation, something like that, and it just strikes dread into the heart of people.
It's funny though at weddings that you're expected to do it in front of all the people it's all your mates and your relatives, and people are still really, really nervous, which is weird.
I mean, logic would say, look, you're in the bosom of your family and your friends, and everybody knows you, and you're having great crack and everything like that. But unfortunately, the imagined pressure is there, and sometimes it's a real pressure. That the fellas are giving each other stick and things like that. But what most men particularly say to me is that they actually can't relax and enjoy the day until the speech is over. And I think we all know that kind of picture of the groom or the best man sitting down after they give the speech and just going, reaching for the pint. Now I can enjoy the day.
JP didn't need his dinner on the day of the
it's
wedding.
Perfect. It's one of those things. I think that's what fascinates me about it, is the physical reaction that people have.
So what is the physical reaction? Why does that physical, the actual feeling in your stomach, there's something going on there more than just nerves. There's a physical, why does it physically happen to people?
Absolutely. And I think there's a great peace of mind in knowing that it is a physical thing. It's not just that you are incapable or you're no good. It happens to everybody. I'm paid to deliver speeches and I still feel nervous. But it boils down to adrenaline that, if you did a sort of a Google search and read all about it, we won't go into the science of it.
Right.
But, adrenaline kicks into your body when you are under threat. But our brains haven't developed so much since we were cavemen. Back then we needed the fight or flight response because we needed to fight or run. These days our brains are built the same way. So adrenaline still kicks in even if I'm only imagining that I'm under threat. So if I think, everybody's looking at me, or I'm going to cock this up, or whatever it is, then I kick in with adrenaline.
But it's your original instinctive reaction.
Yes, and then the adrenaline itself then is what makes you go pale in the face, shaky hands, dry mouth, and people really panic when they get a dry mouth. But that's simply because the digestive system shuts down with adrenaline, and the first part of the digestive system is saliva. So I think there's a great peace of mind. Once you kind of understand that, you kind of think, I'm normal.
Yeah, it's just my body is just doing what it thinks it should be doing.
Exactly.
Then in terms of speeches, then, and particularly wedding speeches, what would be the most? You do a lot of this sort of thing. What would be the most kind of regular mistakes people make in terms of wedding speeches?
Yeah, there are kind of common crimes that I would say, and in some ways they're kind of funny, and we will laugh. But at the same time, when we say this, some listeners will be thinking, "Oh my God, I've done that," and it is a real fear. But the common crimes, I would say, there are a few of them. There are kind of the Speedy Gonzales effect, where look, I'll just race through it and get
it over with,
and you can't even make out a word that they're saying, and they think that the aim is just to finish and sit down. So that's a really common one when people get nervous. Another one is the kind of head down, keep going, just eyes on the page. If I don't look at John or Michael over there who are sticking thumbs up at me, I'll be okay. And unfortunately that's a sort of a vicious circle, because if I look out to my friends and family, I'll feel reassured and I'll grow in confidence.
I'll know I'm doing all right.
Exactly. And then there's the kind of fidgeters as well, people clicking their pens or jangling the change in the pocket, and there's a lot of them.
There's a lot of mistakes. So say for example, someone comes to you, or particularly like a best man, right? Say I've got a speech next weekend. I'm a best man. I'm quite nervous. What advice could you give me? You know, even in terms of sticking the speech together, and then in terms of the delivery then of the speech, what would be your kind of top tips, or what would be the...
Well, what I do when I'm training people, I have a sort of a model that I've devised. It's called the cadet model. So I would begin with this person by helping them to work on the content first. So I don't write speeches for people.
The cadet model, what is that?
So this is just a model that I've devised to help people remember, the steps that we would go through. And the reason I chose the word cadet to help people remember is it's just like the army. The reason that soldiers are able to perform under pressure and under fire is that they've drilled things over and over and over and over, so it's second nature. Yeah. So what I do is I start off with C for cadet, content.
Okay.
And we say, look, what do you want to say? Who do you need to thank? What flow do you want it to take? What's the running order? So you work with that first, because that's a message they want to get across. And then the second step that I go through is A for audience. Who's going to be there? And
that's something that people regularly forget about, I think. And I've been to a few weddings where there are best men or best mans, whatever the plural is, and they're saying something that's entirely inappropriate for granny to be hearing about a night you were out in the piss.
Or you crack the joke and you see that someone's sister-in-law who's a nun is sitting there right under your nose.
That just didn't work. I mean, you have to remember as well, the priest is invariably at the same table as you, so he doesn't want to be hearing the details of the stag do or whatever like that. So you need to bear in mind your audience. Then D for...
D is delivery method. There are a range of styles or approaches that people can take to a speech. Some best men think that they have to do a real song and dance routine, take out props, have blow up dolls, the whole kit and caboodle. So it's a matter of just deciding ahead of time: is it just going to be a straight speech? Do you have photographs to show? Do you have props? Do you have flowers to give? So it's how high tech or low tech you want to go, basically. After that, then you need to pay mind. E is for environment. You need to try and do a recce, basically. Which is hard if you're going down the country for a wedding from Dublin or travelling miles, but at least maybe ring the wedding organiser in the hotel or in the venue and ask what's the layout, how many people can sit here, and the mic system, just so you're familiarised. Just having that kind of familiarity before you go into the situation really helps. And
then your final one, which is T.
Yeah, T for tips and tricks. And I don't want to do myself out of all my business here. No one will pay for me to do this.
Well, we'll give you the website then, will we? It's nomorenerves.com.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, I'll proceed then.
Right.
I suppose the biggest
just give us a couple of them, don't give us all.
Yeah, I would boil it down to sort of a couple of the biggest tips. When you're nervous and people tell you, look, Ray, just take deep breaths, you'll be fine. I tell people, don't take deep breaths. Breathing in will look after itself, Ray. Your body won't let you stop doing that.
That's a natural reaction, natural
But your
response.
body and your heart rate slows down actually when you're breathing out. And if you take, if you exhale deeply, your shoulders will drop, and you'll convince your body, you'll still be nervous as hell, but you'll convince your body, this is okay, I'm not going to die. So one of the biggest ones I would say is, look, breathe out deeply. Have lots of water close by.
Okay.
The big thing, your mouth is definitely going to get dry because it's natural. Now you know that. Have water close by. But the biggest one is to practice it early and practice it out loud. For any listeners out there who are getting married and they hear someone, whether it's the best man or the father of the bride or the groom, saying the words, I'll be grand, you're in trouble. Then you need to go to my website, because if you rely on improvising on the day, it's not many people that can improvise very brilliantly and entertainingly.
Absolutely. Right, I tell you what, we've got a load of text messages coming in actually. There's no way I'm going to get through to these before the ad break. Would you mind waiting around for a minute or two?
No problem.
Take the ads and we'll go through them, and then alright, cool.
100 to 102 Today FM, The Ray Darcy Show.
We're talking to Derek Carter. He's a professional trainer who runs a company called No More Nerves. His website's nomorenerves.com, and we're talking about, in particular, wedding speeches and the pressure involved with those speeches. Get married in Barbarastown Castle is a top tip coming in on the text. The manager just stopped short of saying the speech for you. He walked me through everything and prompted me at the right times. I don't know if that's necessarily allowed at every wedding, although ours were great as well, actually, in Brook Lodge and Wicklow as well. Hey Ray, have the speeches before the meal, then you can sit down and enjoy yourself. Also stops them from going on too long. Hi, I get all those symptoms when I'm in a certain class in school. Basically, I'm really bad at the subject. The teacher loves humiliating people who apparently don't know or haven't learnt their homework. I get really nervous in his class and shake and feel sick and just dread it in general. Any tips for how I could relax in his class?
Yeah, I think there's probably two parts to that. I think the teacher needs to understand, the effects of nerves and putting people under pressure and putting them on the spotlight, that this is the impact it will have on people. That would certainly help. But
so, have a word with the teacher, even. Well, you could do. I mean, teachers are people as well.
I think it's important to have that sort of emotional intelligence. If you read the book Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman, he talks about this fight or flight response. It's really insightful from the student's perspective, because that's the person who texted in. What I say to people when it comes to nerves, nerves is a natural thing, and there's kind of a 3-step way of handling it. The first thing you need to do is recognise that you are feeling these symptoms, okay, and kind of say, what's going on? Oh, my mouth is dry, my heart is racing, it's just nerves, it's adrenaline. And then once you understand why that's happening and the impact, well, then you can just learn tips to manage it. So whether it's talking to me or just do a web search about how to manage nerves or how to relaxation kind of methods, it would be really helpful.
My sister and brother-in-law got married in the Bahamas. We all went over the speeches, and it was the most fun, personal, stress-free wedding ever, and I would recommend it to anybody from Alva and Sligo. Well, they did the speeches before they actually did them.
Great. I mean, for my wedding, for example, Ray, what I did on the day of my wedding, and if Brian, my best man, is listening, he'll remember this, I had my speech written, right down to, in brackets, applause, laughter. I prepared to that level. And not everybody would do that. But on the day of the wedding, I stayed in my parents' house, and we went out to the garage. And me and Brian rehearsed out loud, because you need to. This is the drilling that I'm talking about, as your mouth gets used to it. And then just before the speech, me and Brian ducked off to the honeymoon suite, which I'm sure raised a few eyebrows. To again practice the speech. And then it just meant that I had done it over and over by the time it came to actually delivering it.
I'm doing a prayer at a wedding today, very nervous. Any advice? Say best of luck to Orla and John for me from Dara.
Actually, the exact same things. Read it over and over, whether it's in your car, on your own. Stand up and do it.
And do it out loud as well.
Do a proper dress rehearsal out loud, and remember the breathing out and dropping the shoulders.
And be thankful it's only a prayer and it's not that long.
Exactly, that's only 10 seconds maybe.
Will you help me to write a speech? I haven't any nerves, it's just writing. Can you get me tips on it, please? CD and Kerry, thank you in advance. Ray, I was the best man for my friend's wedding when we made the speeches before the dinner. I thought it was a great idea, and I could really enjoy the dinner. Kev, I got married last year, had speeches before the meal, much better as speakers got it over with quicker and could enjoy their dinner. Quite a few of those coming in actually.
Yeah.
When we got married, we had the speeches after the starters and before the main course. No starving guests, and all could enjoy their dinner. I did a best man speech about a month ago. I started off with a big boo-boo. After welcoming everyone, I said, I will now introduce you to the bride of the father. It helped me to focus on the rest of it once I got the first laugh, and I didn't want to stop. That's true actually. When you get one good reaction, it happened with my one when I had to give my old speech. I said Aggie 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 when I had no idea what I was going to say. To the whole crowd of 120 people I said Aggie Aggie Aggie. Of course everyone went oi oi oi. I
think there's great wisdom in that, because laughter, there's a phrase that says laughter is the shortest distance between two people. So if you can get people laughing, now you don't want to turn it into a gag fest.
Oh no, well it can't be a comedy thing, because if you're trying to do a stand-up routine, then that's not going to work.
Yeah, but I think that definitely an early laugh helps everybody to relax, and then you can kind of move on with a bit of confidence.
For a best man speech, write down a few pointers. Don't write out the whole thing, because you'll end up just reading from a page and can lose the run of yourself. From Danny Kildare. Wise words there from Danny as well. Derek Carter, thank you very much, sir, for coming in. The website is www.nomorenerves.com.
My pleasure.
Cheers, thanks, all the best.